Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the first edition of Audi Design Talks, hosted at the Museum of Modern Art in Warsaw. I will have the pleasure of moderating tonight's discussion, which brings together design, architecture, neuroscience, and technology to explore one of the most fundamental and symbolic forces in our lives, light. And I think it's fitting that we are having this conversation in this very space because this museum was designed around lights, in particularly the daylight. As we had a little wonderful architectural tour earlier today, we did see how the light played differently with the space itself. So we will be today discussing how light shapes the space and also shapes us. So I'm joined by remarkable voices, each bringing a unique perspective to our conversation. We have Lukas Rytwaga, lighting designer at Audi. Thank you. Joanna Jurga, spatial designer and researcher. And Philippe Rahm, Swiss-born architect and theorist of climatic architecture. So to get us started with a little bit of like a historical perspective, light has always been more than just a physical phenomenon. Throughout the ages, it represented knowledge, safety, the divine, really the very idea of progress. But today, in the age of 24/7 connectivity, of global electrification and urban overstimulation, we need to ask the question, what is the role of light in our lives today? And Philippe, perhaps you could get us started with a little historical overview of how has artificial light transformed the cities?
Yes, so thank you for the invitation. I think when you are talking about the light, and you was referring a little about the sun at the beginning, and of course everything was depending of sun because we are starting as agriculture civilization, and the sun is what we need for growing the plant, and so a lot of religion and ritual was based on light and sun because it was everything was depending about that, and so we have to know that the people were sleeping during the night and walking during the day, and in the city it was completely dark in the Middle Age and until the 19th century. In reality, it was really dark, and the invention of the lighting started in the city in 1812, something like that, in London, and in Paris they start to have street lighting with gas street lighting. Before there is only one candle in Paris in all the city during the Middle Age. And then it changed completely the way of using the city because the people start to go outside, to go on the theater, to go on the boulevard, and so the noctambulism, the activity during the night, start to grow at that moment.
So would you say that light has actually given life to nightlife?
Yes, absolutely. And yes, because before, everybody was sleeping during the night.
Everything would just shut down at night.
Yes, and it was also linked to physiological rhythm with circadian rhythm and the melatonin cycle. And I think for me, very often I place the invention of the modernity with this moment when we disturb the astronomical cycle of day and night. And I think modernist is something that disturb, you are creating summer during the winter, or winter when it's super hot, you are creating air conditioning space where it's like the winter in a very hot summer, or, to disturb this type of temporalities. I think it's something that started at the beginning of the 19th century and that changed completely the way we are living today.
Mm-hmm. Joe, could you tell us a little bit more about what light does to us on this embodied level? Because your work focuses on this relationship between space and the body and the senses.
Like, first of all, we need life to be alive. So it's make us really alive, but it depends what kind of light we use. We really need to be outside during the day. Most of us spending more than 90% during the day in the building, and it's not natural for us at all. So that's the first thing to do. We don't have to have a dog, but we should every morning drink the coffee or the tea outside to regulate our circadian rhythm. So that's the first thing we should do to be healthy. But we also have to remember that the light is changing during the day. So the natural light is quite cold early morning, which stops the melatonin production, and becoming very warm with the hours until the evening. And this is how the light should work in the building if we have the typical circadian rhythm, which means that we sleep during nights. Because the white light, this with the blue filter, will always keep us awake, and is very needed in the surgeon rooms, but it's not needed in our house. So, for example, in our bedrooms, we should have really the very warm bulb around 2,700 kelvins. So it is warmest you can find in the shop, because this is the first thing which keep us to asleep easily. And 25% of European citizens have already problem with insomnia. So taking care about lighting in our environment is extremely needed, and that's the one thing when we can do changes, like we decide what kind of light we have at home. Of course, completely different discussion is the street, and we will going the farther, as I know, but if I can give you the advice from neuroscience point of view, that is to remember to keep lighting in the warm scale, especially during evenings.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Lucas, you developed some of the most advanced lighting in the automotive design. How do you view light? Can it be a tool of self-expression, communication, obviously mobility? But I'm curious, what is the role of light in today's life from your perspective?
Yeah, designing and developing light functions for Audi, of course, I have a clear view at mobility, at the mobility context. I would like to connect to the historical view that Philippe did. It started, automotive mobility started with light. Mm-hmm. So even when people were still using horses, they already had light, yeah. But it was like candles, and then there were petroleum lamps. And from the 80s and 90s, we know cars that had xenon lamps, more intense, more powerful. But the big shift came up in the 2000s when LED technology became powerful enough to make it usable for the automotive context. This was the moment where our industry was in the power to control light, and it's about controlling light. Light could become digital, and this opened up a new world. Yeah, we could now develop safety functions, we could develop communication functions, we can even develop personalization functions, and this is changing a whole industry and creating new tasks and creating my job, basically.
Hmm. So now that we have a better understanding, I love how we actually have really different perspectives coming here. There's the embodied, there is the kind of technological design, and there is the architectural form vision. So I'm curious, what does it mean to design with light from each of your perspective? And you've already touched on, what should our living environments look like, home versus workspace. But can you talk a little bit more about what kind of lights help us, focus, what kind of light helps us reset towards the end of the day, and also make that contrast between home and office space, and one thing that just came to my mind, and maybe it's naive, but you say that we should expose ourselves to daylight first thing in the morning. That's actually sitting in an office space with big windows. It doesn't have the same effect.
No. The glass is a very nice shield. So we really need a proper sun bath. We should go for a walk. We should sit on terrace or balcony, whatever you have. But we need to be outside. And first of all, we don't like the ceiling lamp. Like, we like it here. We like it in the museums. They are helpful in the office building. But at home, mostly people don't like it, because when we still living in savannah, it's remind us the situation that we are on a full day of sun and the predators can see us. So we much more prefer all kind of scones on the wall and table lamps and everything what is down, because the way how we perceive light is completely different. If something is on the floor or on the tables or on the wall, it's combined in our brain in situation in the cave when we're sitting around the fireplace. And this gives us this feeling that is the cozy place and we feel safety. Every time when we have the ceiling lamp, especially with very strong, very light, very blue lighting, it makes us in some level nervous. So it can work in the places like gallery, but probably will not work in the elegant restaurant, in the bars or at home. That's the first thing. The second one is, as I mentioned before, to check what kind of color of the bulbs you have at home, because of course in the kitchen we need natural light, in the bathroom also, but it will be perfect if we will have two kinds of light. The first one, very warm one for evening to get relaxed, and the second one, scone close to the mirror, like the bright one to see what you are doing, especially when you have problem to wake up in the early morning. So checking what kind of environment we have at home. And in the offices, of course, we have now these beautiful, huge windows, but they are also making problems because some people sitting in the front of the windows and they need some kind of shelves, not shelves, but some kind of curtains or any kind of equipment which will make the shadow for them. And some of people sitting very deep in the offices and don't have contact with daily light. So designing the workflow and workspaces is the completely separate, in fact, part of knowledge, which separate architects do, because you have to solve a lot of problems, especially with the lights. Now we have these LED systems which can give us the RGB lighting, which will combine the daily cycle of lights, which can be very helpful. On the other hand, we also can help people who work on the shifts with the lighting, because using the proper lighting when you're ending the shifts can help you to sleep during the day, so produce the melatonin, which will increase the level of the cancers. So we have a lot of project, or in fact a lot of solution which we can use to help people with the lighting. But the biggest problem we have now have like two hands. The one is that we spend too much time inside, so we have too much artificial light and too less the real light, which we really need, like a sun. So it's some kind of natural situation when we can see the beautiful stars on the sky during the night. We need it as a species. That was the first way we navigate. On the other hand, we would like to feel safety in the city, or we would like to have lamps in the car to see where we are driving. But as everything, we need this balance to switch off the light if we don't use it, to switch off a little bit to the cities, to give chance the birds to migrate. So I think it's about empathy. And first, when you come back today evening to your house, just take a look what kind of bulbs you have. That's the first thing you can do in your daily routines.
Mm-hmm. But also what you say, like you called it empathic, right? But I also call it intuitive. Like, to me, this just feels natural, like light shouldn't be an afterthought, especially as we discuss more and more people with different, like neurodiverse people. Like, light is the first thing I notice when I enter a space. how it makes you feel, how you interact with the space, whether you withdraw, whether you're more open.
This is what happened, for example, in shopping center, when every shop have different temperature of light, and it's also vibrant a little bit. And it's the easiest way to have migraine in a very short time, because in every shop in the same alley have different temperature of light and different kind of lighting. Our perception give us feeling that something is wrong. So we can make a beautiful work with lighting, and we can do a really shit work with lighting that can be a torture. So we even discussed before we have the meeting with you today that most of us is dreaming to go on the Times Square, and if I give you the sensory stimulation from the Times Square in the lab, you will be sick in the 3 minutes because of the noise, because of the lighting, because of the temperature, because of the amount of people and whole the story. So we can really do the beautiful surrounding, but we have to be conscious. And very often when I talk with people, they say that Scandinavia have so beautiful lights. It is beautiful because it's very warm. And I think so we here are still taking lesson how to use light in the proper way.
We'll talk in a second about the hidden or not so hidden cost of illumination. But you've used a word that to me is key in what we've been discussing with Lucas, is the word balance. And I was wondering if you could take us behind the scenes of your design team and just tell us how you balance, technological innovation, but also safety, aesthetics, environmental responsibility. It's a lot that comes to play. And we're actually going to show you some visuals, because what Joe is discussing is something that we can feel, but when it comes to visual design, then you should just have a look.
Yeah, as I already mentioned, like 20 years ago, there came a huge technological shift. And for the automotive industry or for mobility, there came up a whole lot of new possibilities. So, of course, being a light designer for a company like Audi is directly connected to exterior design, because what we do, our parts, our shapes, our technology need to fit into a beautiful body that needs to be appealing, that needs to fit to the expectations of our customers. But on the other hand, first of all, we design and develop a safety factor there. And this is very important. This is, it's not only about having a nice shape, and every one of you is probably recognizing, there's a nice light signature. Maybe some of you already recognized I can change them. But overall, it's a safety factor. And this is restricted by law. So what we need to do first is sit down, think about all the regulations. They are not the same in every country. There are different markets, like, for example, the regulations in the US are completely different than in Europe. Most of them, to be honest, do make sense, some of them not. We are always discussing them with the politicians, but it's important that never to forget whatever we can do, the freedom we have with LED technology, with laser technology, with OLED technology. I will come up to that later. Don't forget, it's a safety factor. Second, it's important to always be technology driven, because with technology, as I already said, come up new possibilities, maybe even better solutions for people, maybe even not only better design solutions, also new functions. We are not only designing the parts, not only the hardware, we are also designing the functions themselves, the software. And the third part, the third level is the appeal, the magic, let's say, to attract people, to use the fascinating part of light, and of course to have a nice product in the end. What you've seen there is a perfect example. We are using projection technology So the better LED technology got, the smaller the pieces got, the better we could control this technology, we were able to project functions on the street. And there I come to the balance. Of course, we can do everything, basically. We could project a movie on the street, but while driving, this does not make sense. We want to highlight what is really necessary to highlight. And we only want light to be where it's necessary to be. And it's, for example, not good to have light in your face when you're a pedestrian and the car is coming up. We are working for years now on our systems to be so precise that they don't blend you. So right now, with the A8, for example, you have like a perfect cutout of a human being. Everything is tracked by sensors and cameras, and our light systems can even highlight your foot for the driver. You can show up switching lanes for other cars around you. You can highlight a dangerous situation in front of you, and this is what I'm trying to explain. Design is not only the shape you can see or the shape you can touch. Design is also the function around.
Thank you. Let me see if I run through all of your slides. Ah, sorry, there's one that I missed. Rightly so. Coming to you now, Philippe. So you treat lights almost like a building material, right? You're the author of a book that I have here, Climatic Architecture. It's also not just a book, but it's a whole philosophy that you've created. Can you tell us what are some of the core principles of climatic architecture when it comes to light specifically?
Yes, so it's true that as an architect, you are designing space. So you are not designing a solid like a sculpture. You are designing something where the body can enter inside it. And so the most important element of that is the space. And the space is not abstract. In reality, when I was student, for example, we were talking about light and space, but it was very abstract. And in reality, we discover that the light and the space are material. For example, the space is composed by different gases. It can be polluted gases. It can be a certain type of oxygen, of nitrogen, of CO2, and so it means that as an architect, you are not only designing the frame of the space, but you can also design the space itself by choosing the type of gases or the type of lighting. And the light is not only abstract, it's also composed by different wavelengths and different intensity. And then when we made this, it was a Swiss pavilion at the Venice Biennale in 2002, long time ago. It was about the fact that, as you describe, Alfred Lewy published in Science magazine in 1980, he found this relationship between physiology and light. He showed that by receiving bright light, you block the melatonin secretion and you are more awake. And when you don't have the bright light, you are more sleepy, like that. And this relationship between sleep and no sleep was linked to this quantity of light. And for me, it was something very provocative, because in reality, at one moment, you start to establish a link between architecture and the physiology of the body, of the hormonal, it's not only architecture, it's not only aesthetic, it's also physiology.
It's also this like balance and balance that we were discussing.
Yes, and so you have to choose and design this type of material. So the idea of climatic architecture, like in this book, it's to say, yes, temperature, air, humidity, light are the real material of construction, and so we have also to design with that. And so in this type of project, for example, it was at the Centre Pompidou in Paris in 2008, and it was called Diurnisme, and it was based on research, and now we know everything about that. But at that time, it was funny because I was working with light and with some specialists at that moment, and I was invited at Eindhoven some symposium, international symposium with a scientist working on that, and one Canadian researcher team start to look which wavelength is linked to block the melatonin, and they find that it was around 420 nanometers, something like that. And after 550 nanometer in the red, yellow, and orange, there is no more effect to block the melatonin. It's through the pineal gland, the retina, and things like that. And so in reality, as you describe, the yellow light is like a night for the human body. It's because it doesn't block the melatonin.
So are you saying that this is like the ultimate good light we should be having in our bedrooms?
Exactly. This is what we have now on the iPhone, when it's blocked the blue light. And we made that, and it was like, like a provocation, by saying, okay, we are making, we are going out during the night by having light during the night, but is it possible to have a kind of reversed, to have night during the day? And so it was like creating a fake night in the day, so with this type of... and then it was quite strange, because at one moment we say, in reality, by choosing the type of light, you can choose if you want to create a day or a night. So as an architect, you are no more designing only space, but you can also design time. And so we made this cafe in Taiwan, and this cafe is made of blue light that block the melatonin, and another is orange light, and another is white transparent glass. And so you can decide to change space, but it's like time traveling, okay, let's go to the night or let's go to the day. So it's like a very strange attitude to the space, and and for me it was very like challenging the element of architecture from a physiological point of view. And finally, it's true that we made that for Artemide, for an Italian company. And this, at one moment, I move from these physiology studies to a kind of more sustainable and ecological approach. And for the light, we want to have the better light for the health, but the most economical light too, because the old incandescent light was emitting a lot of wavelengths into the invisible spectrum, like a lot of light was heating and not lighting. It's why they changed to LED, because LED is more precise in the spectrum. But in reality, you can choose the spectrum linked to the cone that we have in the eyes. So we, as human, we have 3 cones at different wavelengths, but the dog have 2 cones only, and not at the same position that human. And the cat have also different wavelengths, not at the same position than the human eyes. So it means if you have a good light for human, it's maybe a very bad light for the dog. And so here we propose to select the wavelengths linked to the cone of the human. So we have 3 types of light for the human cone. And then we say, okay, but there is not only human in the house, there is also dog. So let's add 2 wavelengths linked to the dog vision, and then for the cat, and then for the plant. So it's why you have all these different wavelengths. And then the idea was to say, okay, when you go out, okay, you can switch off the human light and keep the dog light if the dog stay at home, so it will be good for the dog because he have a good vision with that. And of course, by choosing precisely the wavelengths, you economize the energy and the money, because you are not emitting into invisible light for the human eyes or for the dog light. So it was like that.
Well, it's amazing to take into account not just the well-being, of us humans, but also just to take the well-being of, the whole planet, of everyone living at home, also non-humans. Here is one more, but sorry.
Yes. So then the light also is becoming something quite important in sustainable architecture or climatic architecture, because now we are also suffering of heat waves, and so the light is not only a friend; it can become an enemy, because it's too hot. So you have to protect that, and it's a big change now, because in Switzerland, for example, we were looking for sun, so all the windows were facing south and close to the north and facing south to get a lot of heat and light during the winter. But now it's becoming super hot during the summer because of the global warming. And in Switzerland, the oldest school that was made with a glass window on the south are too hot during the summer. And for example, 2 years ago, they cannot open the school in September because it was too hot. So the children have to stay at home because it was absolutely too hot. And so now we have also to think about the light in terms of heat, because the sunlight, 50%, the visible part of the sunlight is bringing 50% of the energy of the heat, and 50 are in the infrared. So it means that we have also to think about that. To choose the type of reflection, or absorbing the infrared, or letting only the light or a certain part of the light. And we know that in reality, the skin of the human body is made of a lot of water, and more you go in the infrared, more the molecule of water are excited by the wavelength. So it's why we are using infrared heating system, when we want to heat with infrared. And if you go in the very far infrared, so it's the water is heating very quickly, and more you go in the visible and in the blue, more it doesn't make the molecule moving. So it means that the blue, the green or the blue light is the most cold light for the human body. So there is a lot of things to think and to design with that by now thinking about light also in terms of climate and heating and cooling with light. Yes.
Absolutely, because we're talking about, the progress, like we're talking about associating light with something very positive, but we might not be paying enough attention to the downsides of too much lighting, the light pollution. And it's the question of what are we gaining, but what are we losing in this over-illuminated world? And I see that your slide has just showed up, so... You've talked already about the blue light and what this overstimulation, how it disrupts our natural, biological rhythm, but how it also affects our mental health. If you could speak a little bit more to that.
Again, there are a few different subjects. The one subject is that we start on savannah, and stars was always our navigation, and we need them. We need to see the horizon. We need this also to have a sharp vision. Our eyes need to work with the muscles we have inside. So we need to see a sky, and I think so for all of us, it's quite romantic to take a blanket in August and just lie on the grass and observe the rising stars. And in the city, it's now impossible. When we check the photo from last 25 years of ISS, so International Space Station, working on the low orbit, we will see how much the Earth was changed, because it's really illuminate really strongly. And 60%, 60, of the species living on the Earth are the animals who living on the gray part, so between day and night, or the nocturnal animals, so the night animals. We are in the majority. So they need darkness to survive, and we need biodiversity to survive as a species too. So taking care also about this, the sky, and give ourselves possibility to see the stars is really important, not only for our physical, but also for our mental health. So this is what you see on the slide is, of course, the same constellation seeing in the city or outside the city. And it's not nature for any human beings, but also for any beings at all. And this is one thing which we should take care of. So, of course, we need to see the cities, like we need to use the cars, we need to see the pedestrian, we need to cross the street in the night and survive. And that's obvious. But we can design the lighting system, and that will be the next slide. Which will work for all of us. And it's the way, what color of light we will use, and of course, what angle the lamp will have. So that's the one thing we, of course, need to do. The second one is that we need the sun, and there is beautiful book Chasing the Sun, in Polish W pogoni za słońcem, which I will be very happy if you will read it. It's one of the most beautiful book about the light and how much we need the proper lighting. But I think so there is the way that we would like to feel safety, but we also would like to be healthy, and this is exactly what Philippe said. There are plenty different ways how we can use the light. We can use it properly for different species. We are not only one species on the Earth. We can use it to be healthy in our homes, but also in the different facilities we have in the city. But also, I think so we should start appreciating the darkness. And I know that the darkness sounds terrible because we are afraid of everything what is in the shadow, and probably there are monsters. And there is this very beautiful but also very well-known masterpiece of Goya, that the monsters wake up when we are sleeping, and hold the story. So we have in the culture very strong myth that we should be afraid of the dark. But we need dark to sleep properly. Everybody of you who have an apartment in the city and don't have curtains and have a street lighting system which make your apartment as full of light as it should be during a day, know how difficult it is to go asleep when we have this exposure to the light, especially artificial. So it's again about the conscious, because if we will have a conscious as a society, we will have a chance to vote for the situation which will be good for all of us. We have already lighting system in plenty cities, especially in Netherlands, which are turning off where there are no movements on the street, no cars, exactly, motion sensors, where no humans, no cars, then they turn off. Then we can save energy, we can save money as a society, and every different species, and also we during the night will be happy. So I always think that all is about the education and all is about the sharing knowledge. So I'm happy that you come and you are listening us, because that's give us chance to also sharing our knowledge with you guys, and give us chance also to make a small changing in a home, because if we will sleep better, we will be a better humans for sure. So that's my point of view.
And I love thank you for bringing this personal perspective to it, what it does to us on a personal level. But I also wanted to look at the larger, scale of imbalance. So Philippe, we've talked about how light pollution impacts the planetary scale, how it affects everything from birds to vanishing insects, and just the disruption of astronomical research. Can you speak a little bit more about the light pollution?
Yeah. In reality, as for the human, when you have blue light during the night, so it disturbs your circadian cycle, and so you start to become sick. It's creating insomnia and some mental disorder and also reproduction disorder, things like that. And for the animal, it's exactly the same. And the blue light is quite the limit of the reaction of the body from an animal or from a type of bird or another type of animals. It's also linked to this yellow light and blue light. In reality, it's linked to the as you describe, and during at noon, the sun is more direct to the earth, so it passes less atmosphere because it's why the sky is blue. It's because the light is losing a lot of blue by going through the atmosphere. So it means when the sun is very far from the earth, like during the night, it passes a lot of atmosphere because it's go from far, and it's losing a lot of blue, and the light is becoming yellow, like the sunset or sunrise. And so this type of light, the animals like us and the other one are adapted to this to sleep with this disparition of blue light. And so in this project in Taiwan, we made a 70-hectare park. And so the plan for the lighting was to because there is some regulation about the intensity of light on the street that are on the border, but more we are going in the center of the park, more we are becoming yellow, and more we go far in the yellow, and so it's like a yellow, orange, and red. So at the center it's becoming more red, and then with less and less light too. So it was like the plan to keep in mind this kind of animals life in the park to not create light pollution.
Mm-hmm. So we talk about light pollution, but we should also talk about energy use. And I'm curious, how do you approach it in the context of, mobility, the fact that we live in this radical electrification, that everything is turned on 24/7? How does that affect your working process?
Especially with electric cars coming up, where you want to reach as much range as possible. Of course, the amount of energy you use for any system in the car, but also for light, because it needs a lot of energy, that's for sure, is a huge task for us. Like 10 years ago, we've been very happy that finally OLED technology was automotive ready. You might know it from TVs or from your phone, but to make OLED technology available for cars was not that easy. Why do we need it? We use it especially on the rear. Like we have tiny thin modules, so OLED layers are super light, which is a part of efficiency. If a car is not that heavy, it will drive longer. It will reach more range. The OLED itself has a different characteristic than an LED. The light is not spreading in the same way, and you can even control it better with a glass layer on top, which makes it more readable, so we can implement on the rear of the car even better communication functions in a smaller space. So with our newest models, we can show up a warning sign, which is a little triangle, and you can see this even though it's so small, it's only some centimeters. You can see this from 50 to 100 meters and directly recognize, oh, there's something coming up, I might be careful now. And this is a huge step for us. So being light, like in terms of weight, being energy efficient, being precise in the amount of light you use and in the communication graphics you use is very important for us. But one thing that is also important is to create products that are long-lasting. This is also a thing of efficiency, and our goal is always to not create products that are forgotten in 3 years, and then there's the next range of models and so on. We always want to create products that are long-lasting, that people still admire after 10 years, after 20 years, and that follow consequent strategy. So you will see now that we use this light technology for like 15 to almost 20 years, you can see on all those specific cars that they follow the same ideas, like the matrix LED system in the front, the first system that could project specific areas on the streets. Of course, it did not have the same resolution like projection systems have today, but it was a starting point. And also in terms of graphical design, it was a starting point. We started to implement this digital appeal not only because it looks nice, but because we wanted to tell the story of digitalization and what we could do with it. And there was always this, imagine we could bring in new communication factors into mobility. Imagine the driver will be warned earlier, even more precise. Like every millisecond counts in this case. And yeah, basically, it's not only about creating a nice product, it's about putting the human in the center. We are always thinking what is better for people. And not only for the customer sitting inside and being happy he's driving a nice car, no, also for the people around. And this is very important for us.
Absolutely, it's taking everyone into account. I'm sure all of us have been in those situations where you're driving on a road and someone is just blinding you with their lights, right? That's just... Yeah. This should never be the case. I mean, that's also the issue of safety.
Yeah, this is our dream, to completely avoid this, and to, if you think further, if you think about autonomous driving functions, we can create even less light. Yeah, of course, it's still necessary to make the car visible for everyone, but not with the same amount of light like today. Yeah? So it's a process that never ends.
I still have some more questions for you, but I thought I would open up the room and see if you have any comments, if anything needs any precision. We have a mic over here. Feel free to ask a question in Polish or in English. Yes, there's a gentleman in the back.
Hi, this question is for Lucas. How far do you think lighting in Audi vehicles would be advanced compared to today, if not for all the legal myriad of laws and everything that you have to, requirements that you have to comply with?
Oh, that's a tough question, to be honest. I mean, our way of thinking would be the same, that's for sure. But especially in terms of communication, and especially already thinking communication for autonomous driving, we would be a bit further. Like we are, for example, thinking about what to add different colors. Yeah, some of you might know there is a huge discussion to add this kind of turquoise color to traffic for communication for autonomous vehicles, or to make visible that this car is not driven by a human being, it's driving on its own right now. And we are questioning ourselves, is this information important? I guess yes. I guess it is important because it's changing the behavior of people. And maybe it's building trust. Trust in technology. Trust in technology is something I think is very, very good. We are talking about light pollution. We are talking about efficiency. We can only get better with better technology. I'm totally convinced. So sometimes I think we could be faster, but to have the constant discussion with with the politicians for the home markets is important not to make wrong decisions. And also within the industry, the discussion is very important. So some things might need some time to choose the right way. Yeah. Thank you.
Do we have any more questions? Yes? Oh, great.
Hi, I have a question to Mrs. Joanna. You told us about changing habitat according to the light. Our habitat in Warsaw changes as well. There is a new sort of street lamps installed in Warsaw. And the problem I have with them is the direction of the light you told us about is correct. But the light is very harsh, it's very bright, and it's almost blue. So what is your opinion about our health according to that sort of light and that new technology that is a promise of saving money, but where saving money have to balance our health?
As good as I know, LED lights can have also the warm lights. And
but they don't in Warsaw.
I know. So we should have, as a species in the big city, much warmer lights during nights. This is what will keep us healthier. But very often in public order, not the knowledge win, and this time won't. So it's nice that we have new lamps, and it's nice that they have the proper angle, but it's not done in the way I will like it.
Me neither. There is another danger for those of us who live downtown and on the lower floors in our buildings, in our apartments, because the light glows through the windows and it's all blue. So it doesn't seem that it's going to be healthy for us, and nobody talks about it. And this is our habitat. Another question I have is about our automotive habitat, because the most time we spend in the car is in the cabin. And there is also, they are flashy, they are very attractive with all those screens and all those ambient lighting. But we spend several hours traveling among the cities in that, I have to say it honestly, light polluted environment. Back in the day, there was one Swedish producer that decided to dim off all of the lights in the cabin just to get the driver possibility to focus on the road. What is your perspective on changing that habitat as well? This is the question for all of you, actually.
Okay, so I have a student, the very talented one, and he did the bachelor's degree with me, and we really spent hours discussing on the dashboard in the cars. And
because the light from the screens is glowing directly into our eyes, actually.
Yes, and I really love the example you use because that was the best design of the dashboard in many ways. Also because still during this time we have all the switches. All of them have different patterns, so you don't have to look at them. You can feel what you would like to do. Make the music noiser or change the temperature. And the problem with the screen from the neuroscience is that it's taking time to look at the screen and come back to see the way how we're driving.
And we have to refocus our
And this is one of the way which is very difficult when we're talking about the car and the way how we design the cars. I know, and I'm pretty sure that the Lucas is much more knowledgeable person in this way, that the screen have already the temperature of lighting which is changing during a day. This is why the way when you look the maps is coming dark during night and is also much warmer. So we can use the technology in the proper way. From our nervous system, the analog car are for sure better in the way how we can feel like how less light we have inside, but from many different points they are much more danger when we're driving them. Like I still love the very old cars. But I know that the regulation and the way how we're designing them now should keep us focused. This is for this is one of the reasons why the lights are keep the road and keep the curve when we, for example, turning. But from the neuroscience point of view, yes, our nervous system prefers less screen. There are more screen for sure.
Thank you.
Lucas, would you like to?
I would like to add something there. You were asking about the interior. Very important question. To be honest, lighting design, lighting technology in the automotive industry for many years was very focused on the exterior, focused on functions that are on the streets. We are questioning ourselves a lot about what is happening in the interiors. Like in the exterior, we always say that, yeah, there is digitalization, there is OLED technology, but it's not a playground. So whatever you can do there is controlled by us. Even the digital signatures you can choose from are curated by Audi, because we don't want it to be a playground. We don't want it to be a place for advertising or for messages. And in the interior, we are questioning ourselves a lot right now. So because there, for the customer, for the people using the car, are a lot of possibilities. Like right now, when you jump into a new car, you can control basically an ambient light or a light stripe around every surface around. You can illuminate the whole car. Many cars even offer a sky of stars right now. And maybe the whole industry was pushing too far there. I'm convinced, and I can give you a little insight that this might change a bit, and I'm also convinced, being a designer, that we need to get control back there. And we were hearing a lot about light temperature, about colors of light. Right now, in interiors, ambient lighting, Audi and all the other manufacturers are offering the whole spectrum of colors. So you can make the interior of a car look like a discotheque. And me, being an automotive designer, is not what I wanted the car to look like, you can guess. So we're coming back to balance. This is a discussion that is very intense right now. How much freedom do we offer the people? And how much do we control ourselves creating the product? Maybe it's again about intelligent functions. Maybe the car should recognize, is the driver a bit tired right now, or is he completely focused? What is the situation? Where is the car right now? Do we need to illuminate the footrest all the time? Or is it maybe only necessary while entering and leaving the car, or if something was falling down and I need to find it? Maybe this could be automated. So there, I promise you, will be a lot happening in the interior of cars. Yeah.
We look at the road, and this is...
Yeah. It's strange, right? Yeah. I totally agree.
Love all these informed questions. So another gentleman with the stripes. Yes.
Gentleman with stripes. Actually, talking about what you just said, Lucas, I was ordering a new car a couple of months ago. And
Congratulations.
And I went to the dealer, and the dealer...
Yeah.
I told him, look, I don't want all these lights. I'm just so over-impulsed with sound and light because it comes together. Can you switch it off? And he said, oh, you are not the only one. You know what people say? I'm sick and tired of Chinese circus. Because, I mean, this is what the dealer claimed, that the designers of many European brands were actually styling these elements, these over-impulsing elements, towards sensibility of biggest Asian markets. So it's cultural also. And he said lots of people, especially older people now, are ordering the cars to be, because they are not even able to interact with the car. I know, I'm 50 something. I already have a problem and no patience entering into all these gadgets, customization elements. I want someone else to do it for me, to switch it off. I don't want all this shit. And I'm not the only one, visibly. But then what comes in is maybe the way to fight the over-impulsing that makes us tired is maybe using the experience from the automotive industry also in the sphere of architectural design and urban design. Because if you were saying, oh, we can actually automate the light to go into something that will follow you and follow your intention because, I don't know, you objectively need to grab something from the floor, maybe we could have our cities with less spendings of money on electricity, with less over-impulsing light, with less all the melatonin problems, by switching the paradigm. I don't know, maybe people being vehicles of light themselves, or I don't know, automating everything. But maybe our thinking about objective light that is always present is a mistake.
Yeah.
It is. I'm taking all the notes.
There's some areas within a specific room, and in this example, a car, that need to be visible all the time. So you cannot jump into complete darkness when you're entering a vehicle. Maybe it's possible if it's your own vehicle and you enter it every day that you can do it blind, let's say, but we should highlight the main functions. But I mainly agree with you, and I'm 100% convinced, driven by technology, that we need to think about every little scenario that is possible and automate everything and find the right answers that we have light at the right place and the right time. And this takes some time.
But I have opposite thoughts, because you say that we need to automate everything. But I also will be really happy if sometimes we use our leg and go to make some fire in a nice place and observe the sky, and use our brain to switch off the light, or start not only checking everything by technology, asking AI what we should do, but just take a look around and think what makes us feel better. Like if we put all the trust we have only, I really appreciate technology, I use it every day. But if we put all the trust in the technology and we stop using the critical thinking every day, this is what the research already showed, that if you use chat or any other LLP system every day, your brain function change. So, and still there was the huge report, German one from the last year, that is the easiest way to hack the system is the smart home, and it's the easiest way to make people feel afraid. And still we should use the technology. But when I think about lighting and when I think about sun and a shadow, we have it in our DNA. Like we raise with that. We have it from generation. So sometimes for me it's just more to feel the situation. Okay, if I live on the main street and I have problem with street lights, first I have to buy curtains probably, but second, maybe I can participate in the decision which are making in my district. Maybe I can ask the dealer of the car to switch all these lights. I also have this funny talk a few months ago, how to switch all the systems. And I think so that we need this arrow change direction to ourselves, how we feel, what we need, not what like media told us that we need, but what kind of lighting we need, what we like. If we would like to see the sky, how it's possible to do it. So like, yes, of course we need technology, but on the other hand, I really would like to remind all of us that we are humans, we have brain, we have feelings, we have emotions. let's check how we are with that and not go blindly of the proposition we have from outside.
We were...
Exactly.
Yeah, it's. I kind of agree, but it will be a mixture of things. So you won't
Balance.
Yeah, balance again. The technology got so complex. The variety of possibilities is so huge. You need to think about all the scenarios, and you need automation, and you need specific profiles, and so on. But on the other hand, I totally agree. Maybe it's necessary to still have the physical button that says, now turn it off, yeah, and not hide every function in a super complex menu somewhere that I won't find ever. Maybe we can agree on that. Yeah.
That's nice.
Just reminds...
The development of the voice assistants in the car is helpful in that matter.
It's interesting. Many people still avoid using the voice assistant, me included.
They're mostly a bit crap, actually.
I think the new ones work pretty good, but a lot of people don't feel comfortable speaking to something that's not there. That's not a person. This is really a thing now. Companies are starting to create something like an avatar, so like a person you are talking to, a digital person. There's still a lot to answer there. The voice assistant might be one solution, but I'm convinced not for everybody. So we need to find a variation of ways, maybe. Yeah.
As we're drawing towards the end, unless there are more questions from the audience at the moment. Oh, yes, please. I love how it energized the conversation, it's taking us in very different fields. And
yes, hello, but I still want to stay in the automotive sector because this is the greatest chance to ask these questions. Because if you look at the other brands, German, premium, all the other brands choose the single theme. You got the brand with the star, you got the brand with the iconic grille, yet in the Audi A3 I drove last week, I had the 5 light signatures. Why is that? Why won't you go bold and say, this is Audi, this is 4 Wings, this is Vorsprung durch Technik? Just one single theme, not 5, just one. Why?
Okay, I understand your question, but I already said while talking that we don't want to offer a playground there with those switchable signatures. All of them are curated by Audi Design, and all of them follow a specific character. And we are convinced, I hope you agree, that all 5 of them are typically Audi, because they show this characteristic segments like 1 off, 0 and 1, the digital world. They are all very horizontal orientated, which is typical Audi. And they all have a specific tension, mostly on the outside, also typical Audi. And you can tell we are discussing those signatures a lot. So in the end, out of hundreds of different signatures, those 5 are the one we have chosen, and I like them all a lot. But do you think it's a loss of identity there for the brand?
Well, to be honest, if you look at the star, obviously, one brand, you know what brand it is. In the iconic glow, you know what brand it is, and there's 5 another ones you have to learn in your back mirror. So it looks good, especially on the RS3, the checkered flag. It passes for me, but the others, I'm maybe not so convinced, but I only had a car for a week, so.
Okay,
you know.
Interesting to hear. Maybe you get used to it.
Well, automotive lighting has taken the spotlight as it should. But just for the closing question, I wanted to ask you, we were saying how it's so much easier to illuminate something these days, but it's more difficult to return to darkness, to return to nature, default settings. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts, whether darkness will be the new luxury. Philippe, would you like to get us started?
Yeah, I think maybe if you go to one slide,
okay.
I don't know, it's, we made a project based on gradation. I think it was interesting to say that the quantity of light is not, you don't need every time the same quantity of light, and you can accept to have less light in some area. For example, this one. So it was in reality we looked to the skylight and we saw that depending of the orientation of the sun, some area inside the interior will not receive the same quantity of light. So we know already that part of the interior will be a little more dark, and some other will be more bright. And so we increase this difference by painting in white where there is a lot of light and painting in black where there is less light. And then it was corresponding to some conservation, preservation for artwork. For example, the oil painting can receive only 200 lux, and photographic paper only 50 lux. So we say, okay, let's do a museum based on this quantity of light, and so it creates like a landscape of light where you can move in some places that are very bright, some other are really dark or light gray, dark gray, and to create a diversity. It's a little what we have in this museum when we are in the white room, and then you have a wood room. So, but we can imagine this type of difference from a light, and so I like this idea to work with light, with this gradation of light, and to create qualities through the quantity of light and then you can decide where you want to go. If you want bright light to do something, and if you prefer to have and you are free to decide where to go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think there's, as for species, that will be luxury. And we need darkness. But exactly the same as we need contact with nature and with clean air and with the silence. So all of these ingredients is not the most typical ingredients of the city. And because the population is moving to the cities, most of us will have different kind of problems of diseases because we are not designed to live in this kind of environment. So first, we should take part to change our habitats, like our cities. But second, we also should find time, which is, I think, so the most difficult thing now, to spend time in nature and to come back to this natural balance, this natural cycle. And then it will be easier for us. But for sure, have this chance, it will be a privilege.
Mm-hmm. Lucas?
Yeah, darkness as luxury.
I know, closing on darkness, we started on light, and, as it actually naturally progresses, as you would see, it's getting darker right now.
I won't say that darkness might be the luxury, but using the power of shadows even more. And
power of shadows.
The power of shadows, and because they create the contrast. It's what you've seen before. When you define specific areas of light and you cut out parts there, this can be very strong. And the more precise we get there, the better it gets for the human being. But it won't work without light, that's for sure. Yeah.
I think that's a really beautiful closing statement. And I also take for myself people being vehicles of light themselves. I think that's a
beautiful.
That's a great one. Thank you so much for this enlightening conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.